Oh, am I good?
You're good. We are recording and
I
we
now can't hear you. Hold on.
you can't hear me. Go
Okay,
live.
that's why I can't hear you. All right. Now I should be able to hear you. Are you there?
Yep, I am here. I
Yeah.
am just going over to Facebook here.
I should water these plants while I'm here, but
I love it. All right. And live and live and live. All right, making sure that we are fully live.
I think we're live.
Excellent. I
Making
love
sure
it.
that we are
Yes, we
fully
are.
live.
Oh, well,
I think we're
we're
live.
getting little feedback.
I
You
love.
gotta love.
Yes, we are. I think we're live. Getting little feedback. We gotta love. Yes, we
There we go. The
are.
feedback is gone. Welcome, everyone. I am Amanda Kunkel, your universe liaison, and I am excited to introduce you, if you haven't yet met Marta, the uh, financial breakthroughs hidden in plain sight today. Marta, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because
Sure.
even though we've known each other for almost 4 years, I always mess up your last name.
I don't blame you. Okay, so my name is Marta Sauret Greca. Personally, I'm a mom to 7 kids, a doodle, and some chickens. But I am passionate about helping families be really good, the best shepherds that they can be of the wise wealth that God bestows upon them.
Beautiful. I was listening and adjusting our Facebook settings at the same
Oh,
time.
perfect. Yes,
Thank you,
we're
God. Thank
all
you,
on the page.
universe, for multitasking, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And Marta, like I said, we've known each other. It's almost been 4 years, I think, three or
I
four
can't
years
believe
now.
it. I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that. Yeah, because I we met through Joy's program, and that was like 7 years ago. But so we're forever friends. It doesn't matter how long. But Amanda has known me through my the baby that I grew for over a decade. 13 years is a marketing agency that transitioned into serving holistic wellness practitioners. And that was a passion of mine because my mom was diagnosed with cancer twice. The first time she beat it through holistic and medical methods, traditional medical methods. And then the second time, we did lose her. And in that process of losing her, there was a traumatic moment at the end where I'm trying to juggle. I had just had a newborn baby, I just had my sixth baby, trying to juggle having him and being there with her, not even for her, with her. I wanted to be there with her. And we get a knock on the hospital door. At this point, we'd been with her on and off all night. I ran home with the baby, came back. I wanted to be by her side. This is, again, newborn baby. For those of you exclusively breastfeeding, they don't take bottles. And 5 other kids at home, my hubby was at home with. They did not allow children in the hospital. So, knock on the door, knock, knock, knock. Sister-in-law opens the door, and it's security there to escort me out because I had brought my newborn baby in the hospital. And so the last hours I didn't get to be with my mom. I By the time I got home, this was Easter Sunday. By the time the kids and everybody woke up, I get the text from the family, she's gone. So in that moment leading up to it, there were so many things that my mom would have wanted that we didn't get to do for her because of financial limitations due to what is covered by insurance and what is out of pocket in the state of Pennsylvania. And that really set me in motion of researching it and realizing that my mother had a life policy, and had we known whether she had something called the accelerated death benefit, I'm going right into it, Amanda.
Go for it.
When you get a diagnosis from a doctor that you've got 6 months to live, you actually, if you have an accelerated death benefit on your life insurance policy, you have access to up to 60% of your funds for your end of life care. So had we known whether she had that or not, um, she would have been able to pass peacefully at home like
They
she
changed
wanted.
everything. They changed
But
everything.
my dad, we didn't realize at the time he has Alzheimer's, already had Alzheimer's. So we didn't understand why he couldn't handle taking care of her, let alone himself. He had a stroke in the process, and I had, like I said, just had my sixth baby, and so I couldn't take it upon myself to care for her. So she ended up in a skilled nursing facility that is a very under staffed industry. So that is what set me down the path of I need to sell life insurance, and I need everybody to know that they need to check whether they have an accelerated death benefit. And if they don't, they need to get it, because you never know what's going to happen in life. And then, of course, that set me down the path of, well, how do I help people even more? Not just when somebody is passing or has this diagnosis, but through life. How do I help families more? And that's how I became licensed to sell investment products called mutual funds.
I remember when you first messaged me about, hey, I'm thinking of doing this thing. What do you think? And I was like, it's brilliant.
Oh,
And
good. Because that
yeah.
means, God, I know God
Are you
thinking
having
about
mom fog brain now? You're like,
it.
wait, we had this conversation. No, I remember you
Always.
like, because we're talking about the women and the businesses you were currently serving, and I just remember completely getting that direct, like, universe got hit. Like, this is this, you're serving them in the same way. This is beautiful. This is the next unfolding to, not just your mission as a business, but also as a businesswoman and mother, because of who you already work with.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the process, also, God really pushed me into it because, again, Amanda and I met in a mastermind when my marketing agency was at its peak. I mean, I'm talking making millions for our clients and in the really high six figures, um, just really high revenue every month. Um, and I remember like getting that nudge to really niche that down for holistic practitioners. And then whenever it was like that light bulb went off of, I need to be doing this, I need to be in this realm, God really has been like pushing me towards it and making things happen that in the human realm you would go, that's that's awful. But in whenever you do trust the divine and to trust God's true purpose for you, you're like, that makes total sense. I'm not even going to question it. I'm just going to let these things happen as they should, at the right time. And every time that I get off a call with a family and they text me and they're like, that was so much fun, I can't even believe that we were on the phone for an hour. That was amazing. And then I'm like, I know. And then in the process, and again, I have to say, because the industry that I'm in is very regulated, I have to say that nothing that I say is a guarantee. And just because it happened to someone else doesn't mean that it could happen to you. It means it could happen to you, but it doesn't mean that I'm saying that it would. But the majority of the time that I have these, I have sessions with families, they're completely complimentary just to help them. Uh, Almost always, what happens is that we find a lot of money that they didn't know that they had, and or B didn't know that they could access, and then we become really wise shepherds for it. Of like, okay, well, what do we do with it now?
That is what I think everyone tuning in here. And by the way, if you are tuning in live, say hello. If you're watching this
Yes, we
on
want to hear from you.
replay, absolutely ping in as well. Would love to see your beautiful faces and messages coming through. And right, you're here because you're like, wait, Marta's talking about money hidden in plain sight. Wait a minute, wait a minute. And so you just hit the nail on the head there with the big surprise that was waiting for them in this live today. So go ahead and dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think that people usually have, I don't know that I've met anyone yet in the world that doesn't have an interesting relationship with money, and a different that is a result of the stories of their past. So what I hear a lot of from people is, the money exists, it's in their life, but they don't really have a relationship with it. And I like to make the analogy of, well, actually, I can make the analogy of the plants behind me, because I have not watered them, right? I have not paid attention to them. They're in my office, and I very often I have my seventh baby who's 6 months now, very often not in my office. I'm just like kind of working wherever throughout the house with the baby. And that's how money works too. If you aren't going to shed light on it, if you aren't going to water it, nurture it metaphorically, then it kind of withers away. Or it's also a relationship with money where if you're not paying attention to it or telling it where to go, it just, like, before you know it, you could be making $300,000 a year. You could be making $300,000 a month. If you don't have a relationship with money where you respect it and you pay attention to it, and you I don't want to use the wrong word in terms of like, but if you really want to honor it,
Yeah.
not in a sense that like you put above everything else, but honor its existence and be grateful for it. And that's when the divine finances that God bestows upon you, that's when they start to flourish. I can't tell you how many people are like, yeah, I have a 401k. I don't know how much is in it though. It's probably like this much. And I'm like, that's really like step number one. Let's sit down together and let's look at your accounts. A lot of times people aren't even looking at their accounts. And why is that? Either they're too busy or they hate looking at them because they think they're not going to like what they see, or they're not really worried about it. It's just kind of there. Well, in all three of those scenarios, then you're not really appreciating your money or respecting it or honoring it or being in the energy of gratitude of what God has bestowed upon you. And in almost every scenario, it's been like, oh my gosh, I have way more than I thought I did in there. And then it's hard to do that on your own. That's why it's so helpful to schedule a session with someone like me who it's confidential, it's non-judgmental, it's totally loving. Truly, anything that I might see, it's probably I've seen it before, and I want to say I've seen it way worse, but I wouldn't even judge that, because even if I saw way worse, I wouldn't judge that either. It just is. It's not bad or good. It's just, this is the situation. Let's look at it. How can we make it better? And how do we celebrate your wins that you didn't even realize that you had? So that way we can be that energy of gratitude, of that which you focus on expands. And that's really the step one of finding it, is looking, because a lot of people aren't looking because it makes them uncomfortable. And so having me alongside you that's guiding you through it and talking you through it and cheering you on holds you accountable for actually making that time and space in your life to look.
And so many of the women here today, right? Some of them are full-time entrepreneurs that have either just handed everything over to an accountant and aren't looking at it, or and some of them, I know a lot of them have from when they had a 9 to 5, like a leftover IRA or 401k that had to be rolled over. And so this is one of those, it's easy to forget about. It's
Yeah.
to forget that it's there. And then the next thing of, well, what to do.
Right. Yeah, and it depends on the person. And so you want to ask yourself, how do I feel about risk, right? Because what I am doing with money when somebody entrusts me with it is I'm investing it for them in something called a mutual fund. And what a mutual fund is a really beautiful way to diversify investments, because you look at it like a basket of different companies in one place. And we have our money managers who ensure that things are in place in order to best suit our clients. And then we do it according to, where are you in life? What's your relationship with risk? How risk averse are you? When do you need your money? What would you like to do with it? How much do you make? And when do you want to retire? And we can come up pretty accurately with a plan of what you could be doing. And even if maybe some people are afraid of like, well, I can't put anything extra towards that. Like if you told me you have this much amount that you need to be putting aside for my retirement, I can't do any of that. Well, then there's ways to get started. We have funds that you can get started as little as $25 a month. And there's no shame in just starting with $25 a month. And if you think about it, that's not even like 2 lattes a month anymore. It's really not a big sacrifice at all. And I even have my own kids, as soon as they start to earn wages, start at that amount.
I love that. And I love how you're talking about the different ways that it's sort of thinking outside the box, because so many of the women that I know you've worked with and I work with, right, we're great at our businesses and driving sales and customer service and the everything customer results, but it's also okay to not know everything and to let somebody else help point you
Yeah.
and to support you with your decision, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And I'm in the process of every day I try to approach individuals who I feel could potentially have a trusting relationship with me already that could let me in to look. But that is, I would say, that the number one big thing holding you back from multiplying your money is if your response to that is like, I'm uncomfortable, I really don't like doing it, let's not. And that is when you want to go, okay, well, beyond your comfort zone is usually a really nice place of growth. And
Yeah.
what better way to do it than to someone who's experienced, with someone who's experienced, who's seen it all, who's probably made all the mistakes in my life. Because I was one who was making a ton of money, but then I wasn't telling it where to go. And I often meet with people who have a ton of money and they don't realize how much money they have because they aren't telling it where to go. It's just kind of like by the end of the month, it's gone. And they have a little bit they're putting aside towards a 401k. But when we really look at the numbers, they're nowhere near where they could be to be on track. And it really doesn't it's not that big of a difference that we need to make to get them there. And they have way more money than they think they have to make it happen. And so I love those meetings. And again, those are the ones that are like, this was therapeutic. But there are ones that where women are like, as we're going, they're like, okay, I have another debt. And I'm like, I don't care. Honestly, it just is. It just is. You have another debt. It's not good or bad. It just exists. So let's just put it on the list. And they're like, okay. And I'll be like, okay, what's the next step? And they're like, or I'll be like, is that it? And they're like, no, there's more. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no shame in that. Let's shift that gratitude or that energy of gratitude that leverage was there during times of need. Even if I'm like blowing up right now, guys. I don't know if you hear the dings, but it's just like Siri, everybody's choosing to text me and call me right now.
Well, absolutely,
Um,
because you're on fire, girl.
yeah. Let me turn that into do not disturb. But and it's just I'm not judging you. And they'll even say like, "Oh my gosh, I'm getting heart palpitations or I'm getting nauseous." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's take a minute. Let's tap through that." Because very often people would go, "I don't want to do this because I'm going to get nauseous and I'm going to have heart palpitations and I have so much shame around it." And well, again, that's not a reason to not face it. Let's do it. Let's do it scared, but let's take a moment. And sometimes I guide them through some tapping, or I invite them to shift the way that they're thinking about it. For example, if someone has a tendency of like they make a lot of money and they've gotten themselves out of debt, but they love to shop, so they have a tendency to emotionally shop. And then they
Yeah.
have like, it's kind of like binge eating.
Yes.
Um, and,
Yeah.
and then you feel so much shame because how could you do that again? You had a goal, you got yourself on track, and how could you do that again? And it's like, well, why don't we shift that? And when you get yourself out of debt, because you're going to do it again, they're like, and I sometimes it's a situation where they've gotten themselves in the situation multiple times, and so they have extra shame because how could I have not learned my lesson? And it's, well, okay, let's shift that mindset. You got yourself out of this situation multiple times, so you're going to get yourself out of it again.
Yeah.
And so instead of like that feast or famine mentality, why don't we add a budget for emotional shopping so that that budget can be there for you and you know you have X amount to just go below it without any guilt, because we also have in the budget that you're putting funds aside for retirement and you're putting funds towards debt. But let's not throw everything into debt so that way you can feel better and then be in that feast of famine, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's a wonderful permission slip too, to
Yeah.
give oneself like, okay, I do have this little splurge fund here, or this big splurge fund, however you're looking at it, but also taking care of.
Yeah. Yeah. And taking care of you because it's such a such a misconception that what we have, it's bad if we take ourselves out to dinner. Or I'm not into designer stuff. I myself am a thrift shopper, but I made the mistake when I was making with my when I was in my the height of the wealth, um that I felt that I needed to dress a certain way, and I need to always have my hair done and my makeup done and my nails done, but I don't enjoy those things. I just felt that I had to splurge on them for the proof that I was doing well, so that way clients would hire me.
Yeah.
And so that's something else that it's a little toolbox that you can ask yourself in order to start being a wiser shepherd to your funds is, am
Yeah.
I spending this money because I feel that I should, like I need to keep up this persona,
Yeah.
or am I doing it because it brings me joy? Because I love getting designer clothes, because I love having my nails done, because I love having, fresh eyebrows, fresh lashes. If you love it, then do it and work it into your budget. But if you're just doing it because you feel like people will judge you if you don't, then that's not from a place of love.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you're putting that in there because there's so much around, at least the last few years, within coaching and online businesses and media about, like you were just saying, keeping up appearances. And so it's like, all right, well, what do you really enjoy, right? And so you're helping, right? Like you're talking about, this is therapeutic for people because you're like, all right, what do you really want? What do you really enjoy? What is
Yeah.
really of value to you, which helps them not just in, right, this hidden money, these finances, but also bringing up the, oh wait, what do I value? And how do I want to be a shepherd of that for myself and my family?
Yeah. Yeah, and I get to do that with so many families, and I feel truly blessed every time I get off a call with someone. I feel like, oh, this is my calling. This is what I was meant to do. And it was no picnic getting the license. It's not an easy license to get. It requires an extreme amount of studying, an extreme amount of really loving the subject matter, which I do. And I every single day get to also just dive into, okay, what's happening in the market, and
Mhm.
meeting with my team on a regular basis of what are the best funds for someone like this, and what is the best fund are the best funds for someone like that, and just ensuring that we're being responsible fiduciaries. My company is phenomenal because it's preached all day long, do what's best for the client, not what's best for you. So even though what I do is commission based, I will always make the choice based on what is going to be in best alignment for your goals. And that's a big question that I get, is they're like, well, how much are these sessions? They're completely free, with the understanding that if we do find a way for you to invest, that you're open to the idea of investing. And if we do find a really good match for your life insurance, that you're open to um, putting your money towards that as well with me.
I love that. And for those of you that are new to Marta in my world, the beautiful thing that I love about our colleagueship is that we have crossed over in so many ways, from me hiring you or me working with some of your coaching clients and going back and forth. And I've can really say I've always seen you do the right thing because of your beliefs, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
as she is and you are speaking into this, talking about like it's commission based, but we're gonna do the right thing for you. I can tell you I've seen her do that time and time again, consistently over years. And that's one of the reasons that out of, all of my connections, I wanted you to come to be live because I can really say I've seen it, I've experienced it from you, and I want other people to experience that too.
Yeah, thank you. And to be honest, I don't even look at, it's called a sales charge.
Okay.
Every investment has them. And I don't want to say every investment has them. Again, I can't make blanket statements, but
Yeah.
it is a common thing with investments, something called a sales charge. I don't even look at it. I just look at, okay, where are you at? How risk averse are you? What are your goals? When would you like to utilize these funds? Um, and do you need access to them, and who are they for? And then I match you up with the best funds possible to diversify your investments, so that you're in a good spot. And what I love to do, that those fun, no wonder people say that it's fun, is say there's a situation where we go, if you did this one thing, you would have like $1,600 back in the paycheck. Let's see what we can do with this 1,600 bucks. Because what's typically happening is, and I'll give this secret away, is a lot of people love their tax returns because it's like, yeah, I'm surprised I got like 20K back or 10K back. I'm going to go buy a car and pay in full for it. But what's actually happening is that you're lending that money to the government for free. They're getting a zero interest loan.
For free. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's highlight and underline what you
exactly.
just said. Continue.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And you've seen the news where, there's trillions of debt in the country. No shame, because I'm not even judging that. But they're getting a free loan for you, and then you're getting that money back. They're paying you back with your tax return. So if you look at your withholdings and say that you can make the shift of, well, if I don't get a tax return, then I can get 1,600 a month. But then some people's mentality is like, yeah, but then I would just spend it. Well, why don't you then just decide to invest 1,600? And then what I get to do with people on these sessions is like, let's see what happens with this 1,600 in 20 years at like the lowest interest rate possible. Oh, that's fun. You like that number? And that's usually when they're like, yeah, let's do it. Because it's just so much fun to see, like, there's people, and again, I can't make blanket statements, I can't make guarantees, but there's people who would have never thought of themselves as a potential millionaire, but there is such a power in that snowball effect of growth.
Yeah.
And depending on how much you put in and what funds you invest in and how the market's doing, there's people that are like, their eyes are wide open of like, I can't wait to invest in a Roth because it's tax-free growth. And if they qualify, if they're in a certain tax bracket, a certain income bracket, it's tax-free growth. And now instead of I lent the government money for free, I gave myself a raise because I took that money back into my paycheck. I put it towards a fund and I gave myself a raise without having to ask my boss. How fun is that?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's so fun. I just love it all day long.
I love what you just said. You don't have to ask your boss for a raise, which
Yeah.
for so many people, like it's themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
so many business owners. Like you don't even have to raise your rates. And how many women business owners like bite their fingernails over like,
Exactly.
go for it, girlfriend, do it. Do it all day long. But if you're like want an additional raise, then do that. And I think that's the biggest mistake or lesson that I've learned is that feast or famine mentality, especially because a lot of your audience are female business owners where you
Yes.
make 20,000 in a month and then you spend 20,000. Because I think there's a misconception of there's God's divine abundant economy, and that
Yes.
is very true economy. But there's also the fact that God is inviting you to be loving and I don't even want to use the word responsible, but loving and a good shepherd with these funds. So you do have to understand, I think what a lot of women business owners want, what we all want is like, we want to get to the end of the rainbow and find that pot of gold and just always be in the pot of gold. But understanding that there isn't an ebb and flow in God's divine economy as well as the human economy. And so knowing that you don't have to be in feast or famine mode, because then when you have that 100K month, you're like, okay, I believe in God's divine economy. I believe I will have more 100K months, but it's going to help your psyche and your nervous system if you don't get used to when you get that 100K that you're flowing it all back out. It'll come back to you, but it's a matter of how much do you want to be the one with the reins of it
Yes.
rather than being in waiting often of like, when's that big cash flow coming again? Because a lot of times for business owners, it's like you're having launches, or for those of you who are in the retail business right now is whenever you're in the green, 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 green. And a lot of you will allow that to tide you over for months in advance rather than flowing it all right back out, which there's no right or wrong, but it's a matter again of how you want it to look.
I love that. I love that. And what a perfect time of the year too to be talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I could talk about gift giving and it's sort of a place of should and, all day long. But I will be talking about that. Because if you join my pop-up group right now, it's called the Minimalist Game, Releasing Life Clutter and Allowing in More. I actually don't remember the rest of the group, but if you look up my name, I mean, just click on my name. Amanda's tagged me. And if you look at my cover photo or the photo pinned to the top of my profile, just click on it. You could click on the group name and you can join us in there, where I'm leading a 21-day challenge of letting go of the clutter. And I'll be going live again next week and I will be talking about gift giving and buying from a place of wise stewardship rather than a place of fear and should, or that instant gratification mentality.
Thank you so much for sharing today, Marta.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm going to have you on. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Do you remember when you're coming on my show?
Next week or the week after. It's this
Okay.
month.
All
I
right.
don't have my day planner
I'm
in
going
front
to
of
tell you
me
guys.
here.
Amanda will be on my show at 10:05 a.m. on Thursday, December 19th, and we're going to be talking about her juicy goodness.
Thank you so
Can't
much.
wait. Yeah, thanks for having me. And it worked out. I've got the baby and the toddler upstairs with daddy, and sounds like they're all having a good time. So it all worked.
Hashtag of course, of
Yeah, hashtag of
course.
course. Yeah, totally worked out. And you might always see one of those two little ones on the calls with us whenever we have them. I like to preface that. They won't tell anybody your secrets though.
Right.
They're not capable, so you're good.
Love it. No, I love it so much. And thank you so much. And like Marta said, please feel free to click on her name above or drop a comment down here if you have a question for her. Of course, you can always reach out to her privately in her direct messages as well, because we understand the privacy nature of this. And we will see you again soon.
Bye.